If you're roasting coffee at home, you may have heard of the term auto roast. It's a newer feature that's being added or included with a lot of different home coffee roasting machines. One of them is the Kaleido series of coffee roasters. This is a Kaleido M2 sealed second generation. Comes with an auto roast feature built into it. The Bullet as well as the Hot Top both have auto roast capabilities. And we're going to do an auto roast today, but we're going to talk about what that is. We'll talk about why it would be a great feature to have and maybe some of the pitfalls or the problems with auto roasting as well. So let's get started on this. The first thing we need to do is pre-warm. Same pre-warm process we would do for any roast that we do on a roaster that requires pre-warming. And we're going to pre-warm to 190°C, and then we're going to go ahead and get this roast ready. You can see I'm using the Kaleido tablet. That's built-in software for the tablet, and I'm just showing you some B-roll here of me getting the unit set up, turned on, turning on the drum, turning on the airflow, and getting the roaster warmed up. So we're going to let this go for about 20 minutes, and then once we're fully pre-warmed, we'll start, and we're going to do two roasts. One is going to be a manual roast, full profile, and we're going to use that as our example. We're going to save that roast, whatever the outcome is, and then we're going to auto roast the second roast, and we're going to see how well it follows the profile. Today we're going to be roasting 250 grams of an Alejandro Martinez Finca San Jose Abada Mexican coffee. This is a wash coffee. Tasting notes include green apple, toffee, and pear, and this is a bourbon. I'm looking for about a 10-minute roast, 5-minute dry, 3-minute middle phase, and a 2-minute development. I may stretch out the middle phase and I may shorten the development a little bit. We'll see what happens while we're roasting and see how the coffee behaves. This video isn't a demonstration on how to roast a profile as much as it is us going through a roast together quickly and then using the auto roast feature. So the roaster is pre-warmed. It is 190°C right now. I'm going to turn the temperature down to our charge temperature of 165°C. I will kind of fast forward through this roast so that we can just, get through the roast, and then we will get to the auto roast. I'm not sure if I said 165°C or 160°C a little earlier, so we're going to do 160°C. Because we're not roasting as much coffee, we don't need that much energy to get us started. We've charged at 159°C. Towards our dry end event, our target time was about 5 minutes. We are seeing our temperatures climb, we're seeing our exhaust temperatures climb, our rate of rise climb, and now the rate of rise has peaked, and we're going to see it start to work its way towards the downward trend towards about the 10-minute mark. We're at 4 minutes into this roast as we're speeding through, fast forwarding this roast. Dry is going to take place any second now, and there it is. Our dry event took place at 4 minutes and 57 seconds, 3 seconds earlier than what I had hoped, so we are right on target. Now I need to get my heat under control so I can continue a downward trend in our rate of rise, and our next target is about an 8-minute first crack. We'll see if we can hit that event. We're at 7:45. We hit first crack at 7:51, about 9 seconds earlier than I wanted. That's okay. That's still pretty good. I'm making adjustments with the air and with the temperature, and now we're going to get ready to drop the coffee. There it is, 203 degrees. Okay, now it's time to save the profile. Go ahead and give it its name. Hit save, and then we can load the curve. All right, the first thing that we can see is we had a total roast time of 9 minutes and 38 seconds. So the roast went a little faster than I wanted, but we're not concerned about that. We're just going to pretend that this is the perfect roast and that this coffee tastes great. All right, then the events and all of the times are over here on this side of the graph, the information side. And then over here it shows kind of what you would see in artisan. So our 51% of our roast, almost 5 minutes, was dry, and then just shy of 3 minutes was our middle phase, the Maillard, or what I call the browning phase. That's 30%, and then we have 18.5% that is development. So that is going to be our golden roast example that we're going to use. And the next thing I want to do now, I've saved the roast profile. We're going to go ahead, get the machine queued up at 160°C. So start heating, and we're going to get this to 160°C, and then we will get this coffee out of the hopper, make sure we empty our chaff, and get set up for the next roast. That is the roast. It looks really good. It smells really good too. All right, just some real quick math here. We want to see what our moisture loss was. We have 213 grams of coffee, roasted coffee, divided by 250 grams equals, and we're going to multiply that by 100, and then we're going to subtract 100, and that gives us 14.8%. So that is definitely a solid medium roast coffee. And again, we're going to pretend that that's our medium roast. We're going to compare that 14.8% to the next roast that we do with the auto roast feature. And the roaster is ready to go here. So the next thing we're going to do is make sure we've got all of our settings set up, pull up the profile, and then get things started. All right, just to make sure I made myself clear, there's two different options for us when we use the auto roast with the Kaleido. One is to follow the bean temperature line, that's the red line. The other is to follow the burner line, which is the settings down here. I believe these are the power settings. I haven't done that. I've just used the bean temperature settings in the past, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, we are at 160°C. We basically are in line and ready to charge. Beans are in the hopper. We are going to charge. Beans go in. And we can see our temperature changing here. It was down at 40, I think it was, and then it went up. And we're going to watch what happens. So we see that our bean, our energy, is basically the same as where we had it before here on the timeline. It's not following the energy, it's following the bean temperature, but it just happens to coincide. That's good news. Our exhaust temperature looks to be very similar. Our bean temperature looks to be very similar. So far, so good. All right, we've got our first event, which is turning point. Now we're going to start seeing the Kaleido work very hard to keep the red line on the background line. And it's going to do everything within its power to do that. And I mean that literally. It's going to use the power setting in a very liberal way to try to keep the red line, the bean temperature line, on the background line. You'll be able to see the result of that by looking down at the very bottom of the screen on the tablet, and you'll see those are heat inputs. You can also watch it happen on the screen right here. You'll see this number make some pretty big swings up and down during this roast. I'm not really a fan of that. I don't like that. I think Kaleido could probably do a better job of instead of being reactive with its heat settings, be a little more proactive in looking ahead in the profile and making smaller adjustments in the heat. And that would prevent a lot of things happening that probably shouldn't be happening. So for example, this bean temperature is doing pretty good. The exhaust temperature is going all over the place, and that will impact the rate of rise. We're going to see our rate of rise line not be as smooth and descending as it was when we did the manual roast, and that's because of these very liberal heat inputs that the computer software is doing. Okay, so you can see now our temperature burner is going up and down and up and down, but the good news is that our bean temperature is right in line with exactly where we need. So far so good. We're 3 minutes into the roast, and I'm going to check this out. 250 grams of this Mexican coffee, and it's starting to lighten up. That's good news. It's exactly what we want. The rate of rise is shot past the rate of rise on the roast, and that's again due to the heat inputs. We hit dry end at 4 minutes and 57 seconds, and we'll see how close we get to that event. I would anticipate it should be pretty close because the bean temperature is still on track. We are definitely starting to get paling, and we've got a good minute now to get this yellow. The burner, you can see it here moving up and down. I'm going to increase the air because I think that's what I did before to 25. I need to take a look here. Here's my air. So I know I increased it right around this time. And I'll keep an eye on that. I'm not sure if the auto roast adjusts the air or not. We'll see. There's your heat inputs. It's kind of like it's going to draw arcs throughout the entire roast. All right, 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Oh yeah, we are at dry. Okay, we probably could have marked that a few seconds early, but it took me a couple seconds to find the button. So we're basically on track with the roast where it was the last time, and I haven't been making any real inputs myself. The computer, the software has been doing that all on its own. So that's awesome. That's great news. What's not great news is the way that it's managing its heat. So my question to you guys, those that have coffee roasting machines that have an auto burner feature, how well does your roaster stay on track on the bean temperature? What does the heat management look like? Do you see some of this erratic behavior in the software on your roaster that has that auto feature? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested in hearing that. And I guess this is a great opportunity. Thank you guys for watching. If this is the type of content that you enjoy, this is what I do. I've got well over 100 videos on this channel, ranging anywhere from real basic intro to coffee roasting at home to some more advanced videos. I try to use different types of roasters. Currently I'm using the Kaleido M2 that the Espresso Outlet has so generously let me borrow, and I'm going to be returning the M2 here not too long from now. I've really enjoyed this roaster. It's been a great experience. You should check this roaster out over at espressooutlet.net, and the good people over there, Joe and Barrett, will answer any questions you have about the roaster. This roaster has really performed great for me. I've roasted some wonderful coffee on this thing in the manual mode. So I guess the question is, why would we want to use the auto mode? That's something that we want to ask ourselves. Why would somebody want this feature in their roaster? Number one, it definitely sounds cool. I mean, having the roaster roast the coffee for you. That's kind of a cool thing. We're getting close to first crack here. I'm just going to up my air. And another reason why we would want the auto feature is because for some of us, we just aren't really good at roasting yet. We're trying to learn how to roast, or we want to learn how to roast. And so the auto feature is kind of a crutch. It kind of is a way for us to be able to roast coffee quickly, and some decent coffee, if we can get a hold of a few profiles to be able to use. We are starting first crack right now. First crack starts. And then we're going to bump up our air again here. I'm going to bump it up to 45. Another reason why we might want to use the auto roast feature, other than it being helpful in the sense of getting us started, you're getting instant gratification, enjoying coffee while we're learning how to roast, is that we may want to have repeatability. We get that golden roast and we want to be able to roast it again, and this will be able to roast that profile again for you, at least the bean temperature it will. I'm going to bump the air up again. I'm going to watch my temperature here of 198. We dropped at 202 degrees Celsius, I believe. So I am going to definitely, our bean temperature is on track. We're doing okay. Another reason why we might use the auto roast feature is for production purposes. If we're roasting coffee production over and over the same profile, that could be another reason why you might want to use the auto feature. All right, we are going to drop this coffee in about 20 seconds. Let me turn the air up even more now. I'm going to turn on the, it's going to get loud. I'm going to turn on the cooling fan. I'm going to let this thing get to about 17% development. And there we go. Okay, well, I thought I hit the drop and then the, I thought I hit the drop button, but apparently it didn't read, but we dropped it at about 17%. We were at 203 Celsius, 1 degree higher than we were on that previous roast. But the machine doesn't drop the coffee for us, right? We mark all the events in the auto mode, so that was on me to do that properly. Also, as far as temperature goes, I can take it to whatever temperature I want. Say it's a medium roast and I want to take it a little darker. While I'm in the auto roast, I can just continue with the heat. I can take over manual control, or I can just leave the coffee in for an extra 15-20 seconds, and then I'll go ahead and I'll drop the coffee. So let's just take a look at the graph real quick here. We've got an erratic exhaust temperature, the way that it appears, and the reason why that is erratic rather than this nice arced line, this is the profile we just roasted, and the background is the one that I did originally we were trying to follow. So the average, it follows the average of this line. That's kind of interesting. The bean temperature is right on. It draws right on top of the other one. I'm really happy with that. And the rate of rise does the same thing that the exhaust temperature does. It kind of goes up and down along and overlaying the rate of rise that I had previously done on the roast. There you go. This is what we just did now with the auto roast. And this is all because of this heat management right here. If this could average itself out and have smaller swings, then these humps would be smaller, my rate of rise changes would be smaller, and this would be a much better overall roast because we don't have the erratic swings in the rate of rise. Ultimately, it's about taste, and we'll see if we can taste the difference because we're going to compare these cups and see if there's much of a difference at all. There will be a tiny bit of a difference because we went 1 degree over on our temperature, We were a little shorter on our total roast time. I'll have to look at the video just to kind of confirm exactly what that was, because when I hit drop, I didn't hit the button properly, apparently. And the percentage, the development percentage, was a little shorter as well. So it'll be interesting to see if we can taste the difference. We're pretty close to what we were before. And the only reason we weren't exact is because of my own inputs. That's most of the issue. It wasn't necessarily the profile. It followed the bean temperature like it was told to do. All right, the coffee has had several days to rest, and we're going to go ahead and go in for the taste in just a second. But I want to show you some pictures of what we had as the end result. So here are the whole beans. You can take a look. On the left is the manual roast. On the right is the auto roast. You really can't see much of a difference at all. The texture is the same. The color is very similar. You really can't tell a difference between the two. And that's because the profiles were very, very close. All right, now we grind the coffee, and we're going to be brewing it in the Kaleido glass Kaleido. And we're going to use 21 grams of coffee, 350 grams of water. And it smelled, let me tell you a little about what it smelled like. During the brewing, I could smell some earthy notes, kind of a tobacco-y, dark, chocolatey kind of a note in the aroma. And then that was for both coffees. I really couldn't tell the difference between one or the other. And then I smelled, when I threw the grounds out, I smelled kind of the bottom of the Kaleido with a little bit of the residue and a little bit of the coffee left in there, and it had a little bit of a sweet note in it. So that's good news too. I'm really excited about that. And so here we are. We're going to go ahead and go in for the taste. This is the manual roast coffee. It's been sitting now for about 15 minutes. It's definitely cooled to the point where it's nice and really warm, but it's not hot. I'll be able to taste everything. I'm getting a little bit of that dirty kind of a dark note in the aroma. It's got kind of a medium to medium light body. It's not a real bold, heavy bodied coffee at all. It has a juiciness that immediately I can sense, so that's really good. So it's not so dark that it's just like drinking ashes. It's not anything like that, but this is definitely a darker cup of coffee. It's darker than I'm used to drinking. I usually am the medium to medium light. And I think when I finished roasting this, I said this is a solid medium. It actually tastes like a little darker than that. There is a chocolatey kind of a cocoa, baker's chocolate kind of a note in there. But it's not a bitter cup of coffee. So this, I think, for somebody that likes kind of a dark tasting coffee, this would definitely be the type of profile that they might be interested in, and this is the type of coffee I think that they might enjoy. I am not getting any of that apple note that was on the bag as far as the tasting notes go, but like I mentioned, there is a juicy kind of acidity that hits the tongue, hits the mouth actually. Okay, so now we've got the auto roast, and really the goal is, are we going to taste the difference between a manual roast and an auto roast? We have to agree, we saw it happen that the bean temperature was followed very closely, so I would imagine that it's going to taste very similar, but we can't ignore the fact that the liberal use of that heat management causing those fluctuations has to have some sort of an impact on the cup. Maybe I'll be able to taste it, maybe I won't. I won't say that I've got a super sensitive palate, but I think let's just see what happens. Let's taste it. It's got the same juiciness. It's got that same baker's chocolate note that's in there, but it seems maybe just a little flatter, a little less complex of a cup. It's very difficult to taste the difference, if any, other than that this seems to be a little less complex. The body seems to be very similar. Yeah, so it's difficult. It's difficult to really tell the difference. It tastes pretty good. Again, they taste almost identical, and I would say that this was a successful roast. It's darker again than I would go. I would probably go several degrees lighter in temperature, but I think as far as comparing the auto roast feature, we did it right, and it was successful, and Kaleido did a good job. So thank you very much, Kaleido, for that. And I think the next step would be my recommendation to the manufacturer that they take a close look at what's happening with the large swings in the heat management. There's got to be a way to be able to figure that out in the software to make smaller incremental changes in the heat management. I mean, when I'm roasting coffee in the manual mode, I'm not going all over the place with my heat. I am making small changes to my heat. So I think that that should definitely be a consideration in the future to improve the product. The product is a good product. I've really enjoyed using this coffee roasting machine, and I would highly recommend it. But I think that the auto roast feature can be improved. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Please share your thoughts in the comments. What did you think about this video? Have you had any auto roasting experiences? Share those with me as well, and those that read the comments. A lot of people read the comments and make comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing that from you guys. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that you were here, and I hope you have a great week roasting. We'll see you next time.